Good afternoon. My name is Sister Noor Nasser. I'm an American citizen, born in a suburb of Chicago, Illinois called Evergreen Park. And both of my parents were born in Chicago, Illinois. My mother's side of the family was Roman Catholic. My father's side, Protestant. As far as I was concerned, my Bible was the Word of my God. So I am planning to do this study of the doctrine of the Trinity based on the Old Testament and the New Testament, using, as usual, my Strong's Exhaustive Concordance to go back to the original language and the meaning, the original intent of the meaning of the words. So in the course of this study over the month, I will just give a few highlights of this right now. As an example, in the book of Deuteronomy, the prophet Moses, may Allah be pleased with him, is calling Bani Israel. And he says, "Hear, O Israel, for the Lord your God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." As the commandments come down to the prophet Moses, they begin with belief in God Almighty and clarifying that he will have no strange gods before him. Now, in this study, when we say, "Hear, O Israel, for the Lord your God is one," that word "one" in the Hebrew language is equivalent to numerical one. It cannot be two and it cannot be three. Another highlight was in the New Testament in the book of James. James had become the early forerunner of the Christian church after the ascension of Jesus Christ. And he was calling the early Christians back to the faith of Abraham. May God be pleased with him. And as it comes down, it is talking about how Abraham's was justified by both his life by faith as well as works. As it continues on, it makes a statement, "And the God is one, and even Satan knows this." When I went back to the original language there, once again, the word "one" was equivalent to numerical one. It could not be two, it could not be three. Moving further, then, of course, my mind is then curious with regard to the language of the Son of God being used with Jesus Christ. And I found something really quite unusual for me. I had read my Bible so much, but during this study, I really believed with all of my heart, by what was happening, that my God was honoring the 2 weeks of prayer and fasting that I had invested before doing this study, because there were scriptures that were jumping out at me, like to get my attention. On the language of the Son of God, I discovered by using Strong's Exhaustive Concordance again, going back to the Greek language, that this same language could have been translated to say, Jesus Christ, one of the fold of God. Immediately I thought of the community of believers and how every prophet is a member of the believers. They are the highest level of believers for that matter. And therefore, it never had to be translated or taught in Christian doctrine as a literal son, an issue of God Almighty. After 1 month of intensive study regarding the doctrine of the Trinity, it became my undeniable conclusion that the evidence showed that this great God that I was serving is one. I reached this conclusion at 3:30 in the morning. And I really don't have the words to describe how profound this conclusion was to myself. It was as if my entire foundation was caving in below me. Initially, I felt that a great mistake has been made by teaching that our God has partners joined with him, and his sovereignty being disturbed in that. And I was concerned for the millions of people who have been taught this doctrine. Then my feelings shifted from a great mistake to actually wondering, after all, the scholars are very knowledgeable. Then my feelings actually changed and I began to wonder, I'm just telling you honestly, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just telling you honestly, from the bottom of my heart, the truth of how I felt. Secondly, I felt, or have we been lied to? And nobody likes to be lied to. In the end of this, I went upstairs to go to bed, and it was 10 minutes to 4 in the morning. I sat down on the side of the bed and just sat there with my hands on my legs, thinking. Suddenly, I turned my head to the right, and sitting on a small table at the front of the bed, which was like a small nightstand, was this Quran that had been given to me. I then said to myself, now I just want to read anything at all from this book. And I took this Quran and I opened it just at random. And my eyes fell. It has Arabic and English, as well as a very thorough English tafsir. It was a Yusuf Ali translation of Quran, and an older one. It was a double set in a book jacket. And as I opened it, my eyes fell to these words. God Almighty on the judgment day was questioning Jesus Christ. And he is saying, Jesus, did you tell the people that you are equal with me? And Jesus Christ is answering his Lord back, saying, no, God forbid, never did I tell the people that I was equal with thee. At this, my eyes fell down to the tafsir, and to my shock, I read in the tafsir, which is the commentary, the exact same thing that I had just finished writing in my own notebook downstairs, my conclusion. That Jesus Christ, as mentioned in the book of Matthew, was a prophet. That he never called the people to worship him. And in fact, he never proclaimed himself as the God. He never called people to worship him. And in fact, he prayed to his God. I think I walked around in a daze for a couple of weeks after this, almost a semi-shock, we would say. At this point, all I knew was, at this moment, I'm not sure who I am, but I know one thing for sure. I am one giant step outside of contemporary Christianity.